Hey everyone.
Hello. How are
How's
you
everyone
today?
going?
Good.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like our chat open
Yeah.
as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
on the chat just because like I want to see the actual spelling. Like which one do you guys like the most? I like
think oh, for the logo.
We can still use the same movement, but like ID is like Julie's handwriting, and then EN it's Kayla's handwriting. Maybe we can do something like this.
I like that. I was thinking of that. That would work.
Making an isolation has been an adjustment, yeah, like everything else. It's been interesting not having the support from the tutors and the technical staff to work through problems, and that was a sort of a big hurdle that we all had to go through. And it's been having that sort of limited access via online to support has been difficult, but that has sort of meant that we now have the ability to problem solve, which I think is a very useful skill, particularly problem solve difficult issues like this and that no one ever predicted. And I think it's a really useful tool to have in our toolbox going forward into the future, particularly around design and creative processes, because you know, as soon as you do that, you get into the problems of motivation and inspiration, and working through that has meant that we now have different skills that we can apply to the workforce. Yeah, so that's been really good.
So if you could get this under control.
I also think that the weight of pushing past that those difficult problems and problem solving them has meant that it's sort of consolidated the weight of what we have done, which has been a little more rewarding, I think, and has meant that we actually have something to show for what this year has been, and to say that we've made it, we're here, everything's okay, and it wasn't what we expected, but we got there in the end. So I think that's a sort of a sense of personal achievement that everybody in this course will probably have and should have, I think. Yeah.
It's been pretty hard being in isolation, trying to, create a graduate collection. It's pretty frustrating to think that this is what I'm gonna show to future employers. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm not very proud of what I've been doing this year, and having to change my designs and change like certain elements so I can like do them at home it's a bit frustrating, considering this is the graduate collection. This year has really made me question who I am as a designer and where I see myself in the future. Dealing with my mental health and like all the stress from uni and graduating has kind of made me question like, can I really do what I want to do? And that's really like silly to say, but it's really made me doubt myself a lot. So this year, my family has been like shuffling things around the house, and we've been trying to get rid of all the things we don't need. And my sewing room has kind of become like a dumping ground for those things. And every time I get up, I manage to trip on something new. Every single time. So I'd like get up to go get the ironing board, right? I come back and I trip over like a guitar that hasn't been touched in like 10 years. It's been so frustrating, just working in clutter. And I've tried to like push things off to the side, and then next minute there's just new things. I blink and there's new things there. It's so frustrating.
Hi, my name's Elise. My identity in isolation has been, like, at the start, I was not motivated. I didn't really want to do anything, and I found it really hard to, like, know what even I thought about my project without checking in enough. I also found it really hard to work with my fabrics, and the extra level of stress, just feeling like you're on your own. Like, I literally thought that I probably was going to fail first semester. It was that hard because you don't have that same level of interaction that you're used to, and you just have stress and feeling like you're by yourself and not wanting to like do the work because of being unmotivated and being lost. But right now, like semester 2, I have a lot more direction. I'm a lot more confident in what I'm doing and passionate with my work, and having more experience in like the making process of draping, and also the making process with using the fabrics that I'm using, like vinyl or leather, things that I haven't had a lot of experience with and that were causing me a lot of grief in semester 1. So yeah, it was a bit of a process to actually get past that stage of not being motivated and to have a bit more consistency, even though it's like kind of consistent, but not really. I have my most creative ideas at night, and I've always had it like this before the pandemic, so it's not really new to me. I think generally speaking that dreams are more intense, but like the ideas the intensity is the same. So whether it's an idea about how I'm going to put something together or stitch it together, like sometimes I have ideas while working, but it's mostly at night, and I'll write them in my notes on my phone and then go to bed and probably look at these when I start working, which is usually in the afternoon that day if I am doing anything for uni that day.
How are you finding making in isolation? So I found making in isolation both difficult and rewarding. On one hand, I've got a severe lack of resources. My room has turned into a mini studio, which is in a constant mess, and I've used just about every inch of floor space. However, it has forced me to use what I already have and be creative with that. I feel like being at home creates a safe environment where it's easy to just focus on your own work. Over isolation, I've had a lot of time to reflect on my practices as a designer and where I want to move towards. Although at times I've felt lonely and stuck, I found that it's a great time to confront and reflect on issues. So when I'm in a good mood, I feel the most creative. If I'm happy, I feel creative and have an abundance of ideas. It was really difficult to maintain momentum throughout the year with the natural anxiety that was consistently present. In order to create a positive mindset for myself, I had to have enough sleep, I had to eat properly, and I had to exercise. As much as I hate to admit it, it did make a difference in the way that I worked. To me, identity is all about exploring that everyone is and deals with things differently. The pandemic has created an uncertain environment where you start to question everything going on around you. Identity was a way to dive deeper into how we each have worked throughout this difficult time. In my practice, I use stories of tradition and culture to develop an identity as a designer. With a focus on handmade techniques and upcycling of material, isolation has created a space where I can push the boundaries of my practice, focusing on what it means to create from the material we already have in our homes.
Hi, I'm Eva. During this COVID pandemic, I have been working and studying at home and making isolations with limited access to resources and facilities. And this kind of makes me to think of doing things in different way. Because of these changes, my working time become more flexible than before, as I often work at night, and this is where most of my ideas comes in. It might sound a little bit strange. I sometimes sew a pattern made during the midnight about 12 or 2 a.m. and at that time, when the world is quiet and I can more focus on my work. This year, I'm doing a fashion project. It's by taking the idea of dissociative identity disorder and reflect our daily different identities according to the surrounding circumstance and explore the process of self-concordance and self-acceptance. Because of making isolations, I'm more focused on the inner self and the mental wellness issues, and I've been taking some of the emotions into my garment design.